What's happening, guys and girls? Acrinator here, and welcome to another episode of World of Warcraft Dungeon Overview. This episode will be going through what has to be probably the most annoying dungeon to get footage for. Seriously, I had to repeat it like 10 times just to get each combination of bosses. Anyway, the dungeon in particular I'm talking about is, of course, the Violet Hold. I'll be going through with my Demon Hunter you see here, so with that being said, let's dive straight into it. For as long as Dalaran has been established as the City of Mages, the Violet Hold has stood as a place to incarcerate those who were deemed threats to their society. Rivaled perhaps only by Tol Barad, you can imagine just what kind of inmates would pose a threat to a city made up entirely of those adept in the magical arts. Thanks to the Kirin Tor's recent meddlings with the Blue Dragons in the Nexus War, Malygos has sent some of his strongest assassins and saboteurs to infiltrate the prison complex and attempt to destroy the city from within. While the guards have difficulty keeping the invaders in line, they've managed thus far. However, the captain of the guard has reached out to us adventurers in fear that more will come to overwhelm the city's defenses. We've been tasked with handling the situation inside the Violet Hold, hopefully putting a stop to this attempted siege. The Violet Hold is a level 72 to 77 dungeon with level 80 heroic mode located in the Wrath of the Lich King version of Dalaran. Just go to the city and look on the southeast portion of the map to see the building labeled as such. You really can't miss it. Before I get into the bosses themselves, I'll need to take a moment and explain how they work. You see, despite this dungeon having 7 bosses, you're only going to have to fight 3. Of the first 6 that I'll be going over in this episode, 2 will be randomly selected in a particular order for you to face off against. There's nothing you can do to control this, so it's really up to dumb luck as to which ones you're facing. This is also why the making of this episode was so tedious. Regardless, the first 2 bosses may be random, but the final boss will always be the same. You just need to fight off 5 waves of trash mobs coming out of the portals that will also randomly appear. You should see a counter in the top center of your screen for this, on which the bosses will spawn on the 6th, 12th, and 18th waves. Simple, right? Arakem is an Narracott from Outland that once plotted to assassinate the Council of Six. To put this into perspective, at the time of Wrath of the Lich King, the Council of Six included the likes of Ronin, Corialstraz, Modera, Ansurum Runeweaver, and Aethys Sunreaver. So needless to say, this bird was either insane or very powerful. The Blue Dragons have reached out to this criminal and struck a deal. If they manage to free him, he's allowed to go on a rampage to wipe out every last citizen of Dalaran. Of course, we can't let this happen, so we're gonna have to ruffle some feathers, so to speak. The only real thing you have to worry about for this guy is that he has 2 guardians alongside him. Just take them down first and the boss will follow easily enough. Morag is an observer demon that serves the Burning Legion. He was infamous for searing through enemy ranks until nothing but ash was left. When the mages of the Kirin Tor finally managed to incapacitate the beast, they immediately threw him in a cell, never to see the light of day again. Of course, the commanders of the Blue Dragon Flight saw this as a perfect opportunity to level their enemies before them, so a deal was struck. You're going to be noticing this pattern quite a lot. There's not really much to this fight that's avoidable. The main thing is that the boss will randomly pick a player in your group to attack with various abilities. Just make sure to heal the selected player at the appropriate time. An unfortunate novice mage attempted to summon a simple water elemental to aid them in battle, only to summon Icaron instead. This Sentinel of Neptulon is subservient to the old gods and slew her master before going on a rampage throughout the streets. She's been festering inside her cell ever since. When starting this fight, keep in mind that Icaron has a protective shield blocking 99% of the incoming damage. This lasts for the first 35 attacks landed on it, so don't waste your bigger spells on it just yet. Go for the quicker casts if you can. After the shield is destroyed, it bursts and summons 10 Ichor globules that start moving toward the boss. Make sure to kill these before they reach her, otherwise Icaron will be healed. Normally, the Kirin Tor avoid doing business with the Ethereals, since they've proven themselves to be quite shady in the past, though some do manage to jam their foot in the door at the opportunity at yet another sale. Ziva's had quite the gig going, that is, until the mages discovered that he was also selling arms to the Burning Legion. Not the smartest move on his part. The only thing to worry about for this fight is an ability that causes Ethereal Sphere trash mobs to spawn far away and move toward the boss. Any spheres that make it to Zivaz will power him for a short period. The trick is that these adds will also damage any nearby players, so casters should be the one to focus these down. I don't know how the Kirin Tor got their hands on one of Ragnaros' core hounds, and to be quite frank, I don't think I want to know. What I can tell you is that spending so much time in a cell hasn't done anything to this puppy's temper. You're gonna have to deal with this one regardless of your desire to do so. Despite this beast's looks, it's actually a pretty simple boss fight. There's only two abilities to look out for. The first is that Levanthor will cast a flame breath, and the second is that it will spit out a pool of fire underneath the random player. Tanks just make sure to face the boss away from the rest of the group and be mindful of where the fire is on the ground. Zermatt is a creature of the void that is quite possibly the most dangerous inmate within the Violet Hold. It supposedly took more than 100 mages to deal with this monstrosity, leaving many of its opponents dead in the process. Even Malygos was hesitant to let this aberration roam freely, but ultimately decided that its potential for genocide was too great. And look who has to deal with it this time. Zermatt will summon adds called Void Sentries every so often. The only problem is that you can't attack these normally. You need to wait for a random player to be shifted into the Void Realm in order to deal with these. However, the Void will damage any who enter, so take out as many adds as you can before you shift out, and make sure to get the necessary heals. Syan Gosa is the commander of the Blue Dragons, for which Malygos placed in charge of this assault. After freeing multiple of the inmates, only to have them fail, her patience is at an absolute low, now opting to take care of these pesky adventurers herself. We fought plenty of dragons up to this point, but it's questionable if we've ever faced any with such conviction. Like most of the other dragons we've faced up until now, Syan Gosa has a breath and tail swipe ability that damages all players in cones directly in front of and behind her. Just stand to her side if you're not the tank and you'll be fine. The boss will also set down a location where she'll cast Blizzard, damaging and slowing any caught in it. Just cut her away from the cast here. The last thing doesn't do any damage, but it's kind of annoying. Syan Gosa will teleport all players directly on top of her, meaning that you'll just need to reposition yourself constantly throughout the fight to avoid the aforementioned abilities. Well, I hope you all enjoyed this episode, because I certainly didn't enjoy the effort that went into making it. Anyways, if you did enjoy this, feel free to give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see more like it, maybe even subscribe. Links to my social media and whatnot are in the description below, and as for the comment question, how dangerous do you think the Narracott Arachem is? It seems kind of far-fetched that someone like him could take down the entire Council of Six, but the Kirin Tor did lock him up in their top security prison, so who's to say? Anyways, that's all the time I've got for today, so until next time, don't die.